The first important thing we see in this episode is Dr. Belshaw using this mysterious green gas that the CRM use. And we find out how this gas works from Leo's point of view, because of course the episode before, Felix stole a vial from Dr. Belshaw's lab, and he describes it as a pretty basic gas, pretty basic poisonous gas. It fills the victim's lungs with fluid, until later on in the episode, Belshaw reveals that this gas could be capable of prolonging a victim's turning rate. She says up to 8 hours, and it's funny because Jadis responds with, "It's rare, but not unheard of." When Belshaw takes Huck and Jadis up to see this victim that has supposedly lasted more than 8 hours not turning, she sees it's not even made 8 hours and it has turned. And that leads to her unfortunate death. I say unfortunate, I thought she was boring and dozy. I liked her a bit towards the end, but my phrase is she was destined to die because she was boring. But nonetheless, this gas did work. That's what their intention is with this gas, and it's so scary. And especially with what we find out at the end of the episode as well, that the CRM's plan is to not be an alliance anymore, to just be the Civic Republic. Episode 7 was the pure start of the CRM actually taking over, and actually, if anything, shows that The Walking Dead and the characters in that show are on thin ice. It's funny because as soon as Jadis revealed this big plan to Huck off screen and the main characters of World Beyond found out, they basically said, "Hey everyone, have you seen that movie Rogue One? Yeah, let's do that." They basically say they're gonna destroy the gas and take this place down with it. So destroying where they currently are, not really realising that there's a much bigger part of the CRM left. I have said since season 1, this is the feel I got. If you don't know Star Wars Rogue One, it basically shows the story of what happened just before the original trilogy in Star Wars. The small team that went in to find the weakness of the Death Star back when the original Star Wars movie trilogy came out. Didn't have a clue about that team, but they showed it years later. With this, I just feel like they're showing World Beyond right now. It's something that adds to it. A pretty harmless way of showing the mythology of the CRM and expanding the universe without really showing a lot of what's to come. Whilst it is obviously the stepping stone for the first Rick Grimes movie, you don't really have to watch it. They all sat in a group talking about destroying this gas and taking down the place with it. My thought since the start of World Beyond is that it's likely they're all gonna die, if not the majority of them will, and in the end it was all to show the start of the rebellion, almost like Legend. And in the Rick Grimes movie trilogy, he will no doubt mention the story of the Bennett sisters, for example, those kids that ventured out and fought against the CRM. This show did have its own story, it did show more of the mythology of the CRM and the Walking Dead universe, but really it's a stepping stone for the Rick Grimes movie, and you wouldn't really miss much by not watching World Beyond, because the Rick Grimes movies will show you that anyway, in a much greater extent. And again, there's a weird similarity to a Star Wars story, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the game. Throughout the whole game, you pursue this villain, only at the end to find out the real villain is Darth Vader. That villain meant nothing, and Darth Vader killed her for disappointing him. That's what World Beyond has done. It's shown us quite a Nickelodeon Disney XD side to it. We think Elizabeth is the big bad mean leader, but no, we've seen she cries about it. She doesn't like it herself. She's barely managing to do it. At the end of World Beyond, I'm pretty sure the real enemy is going to be shown. Elizabeth will be shown to be nothing, and we're going to see the real reason as to how someone like Rick Grimes could be held back, and I think it's going to be actually sinister, because what we've seen in World Beyond is a very watered down version, or at least I hope, but that's how I've always seen it, that's how I see it. Just like what I've just said about the game, it's very similar to that. I think we're just seeing a Nickelodeon version of it.
Strong feet. I can see him from here. Good on you.
I actually can't deal with it. Like, the first thing she looked at when she walked in that door was his feet. She was already focused on it. She was expecting it. Must be a Rick movie thing. I think that's why he's not come back. She's got a weird obsession with feet. His feet. She doesn't want to talk about it.
Look at those clompers. You could skip through a rock pile with those.
Poor guy. I bet as soon as he woke up, look at those heels.
It's kind of like living in a junkyard.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I really liked that. This was like a near perfect Jadis scene, excluding the feet obsession. In this scene where Hope and Iris have to run and hide into one of the experiment rooms, they see one of the walkers is missing an arm. possibly 2 arms. But this particular walker looks a lot like Heath. Before we even get into why this walker would be missing an arm, it begs the question again, now we know so much more about the CRM, what actually happened to Heath? Now, I've made a video about this before. I dedicated a whole video to just this question, just this theory. I called it the 3 Heath theories, in fact, which is quite funny. That was back at the very start of the channel. And I talk about the 3 possibilities that could be happening with this character. Now, Angela Kang has pretty much confirmed before in an interview that the seeds have been planted and he is at the CRM, so it's insanely obvious for a start that he is likely there. But it all comes down to 100%, does the actor Corey Hawkins want to come back to it? That's what she said, the seeds have been planted. If he wants to come back and continue the character's story, he can. Now, it's obvious in the nature that Heath was taken by Jadis, as right now that's what we know. Jadis kidnapped him, traded him off to the CRM. That the nature of it was he would have been experimented on. So if Corey Hawkins says, nah, I can't do it, I don't want to come back, I'm doing something else, I think the mystery will still be answered, but it will just be answered to in the worst way. It'd just be a walker that's been experimented on, because that's what's happened to him. He did go to the CRM and he'd look exactly like this, maybe even worse, because remember that a lot of time has passed. But around the time Rick would have arrived there, that's when Heath's walker would be shown. So again, depending on what the actor says about returning, because he will be asked about it, by now he has been, he will look exactly like this, and it will be Rick that sees him. It's interesting because back in season 11 episode 1, remember we saw Heath's name on the Wall of the Lost. An intentional Easter egg or not, that's really interesting, especially because just under it is written 24, the show that Corey Hawkins went to and was known for starring in. To make it clear, it's very unlikely Heath is at the Commonwealth, or that there's even someone at the Commonwealth wanting to reach out to Heath. It could just be someone called Heath. It's the name, it's the number, foreshadowing that he will come back. But even then, I don't think it will be in the main show at all. It all comes down to, does Corey Hawkins want to come back? When he's asked about it, will he agree? Does he want to be in the Rick movies? And if he does, I think he's going to have quite a big part to play in Rick's arrival. And honestly, whether he agrees to it or not, will still play quite a big part, because they're going to show him as a walker, and that he's being experimented on. And by the way, if you're someone that doesn't even remember Heath or care about Heath, if they showed Morales in season 8 of The Walking Dead, they're going to show it in the Rick Grimes movies, a character that went missing only 4 to 5 seasons ago. I think it's a loose end that they're going to tie either way, however it happens. And of course, on the topic of this walker, why is it missing an arm? Well, this is very similar. I've always referred back to the character Troy Otto in season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead. By the way, extremely underrated character and killed off way too soon. He had so much potential, actually hurt. When Troy first appeared in Fear the Walking Dead, for a short time at the start, he would time how long it takes certain people to turn. Different races of people, different weight classes, different age, and different gender. He kept notes of all these things and he was fascinated by it. Very similar to what we've seen at the CRM. So the fact that a walker with a missing arm could just be them being interested in seeing how long it takes a person with a missing limb to turn, or they've of course done it just before they've turned. Either way it goes, this is just another example of how sick this CRM really are. As I've said, although we've seen such a big part of the CRM, I still think and I still hope there's a lot more, and we haven't really seen anything. I feel like with most opportunities that World Beyond has to show something unique and actually scary about the CRM and different to every other villain that we've seen in The Walking Dead, it completely fumbles it. I mean, Dr. Bell sure stands there and shows these kids this clip and talks about it like she's found something groundbreaking, like you're not going to want to miss this. I'll show you how we're really all fucked.
This is what we're up against.
Walkers like rats. Look at it. It loves a good mouse. They already know it doesn't give up. Why wasn't that a clip of a walker looking at the camera or something? There was a slight moment at the end and you're like, oh wow, is it going to look up? Is it going to smile? And it just goes back down to being a little dickhead again. We already know it does that. This woman has shown nothing new to me, all these kids. What an anticlimactic way to say that walkers don't get tired. I'm pretty sure everyone in the world knows that. No wonder she died hilariously.
Another tragic accident. these things happen.
Jadis is so entertaining to watch in World Beyond, and I do really like her. It's clear to see she's been completely brainwashed and she's playing almost a completely different ego. There are some things she says and little facial expressions every now and then that show she might not like what she's doing, but you can see she's completely betrayed Rick and what he would want, clearly. But again, just like with Isabel, you get these little peeks into what she's really like, and she's not this cold soldier. I think Jadis just really loves having a purpose, any purpose. She didn't find that with Rick or Gabriel, but she's found it here. Notice how a lot of these characters haven't seen Jadis for a long time. Some barely even know who she is, and that's because she's been where Rick is, somewhere a lot more strict than where these characters are now, which is saying something. I think the full story of what happened with Jadis and Rick when they arrived here, she was all for the CRM. She regretted it, like I said in my last video, was still sad about it, but found a purpose, was slowly but surely brainwashed, manipulated. I think it's likely, I want to avoid Rick having memory loss, because I think that would ruin a lot of it. In the first movie, I think we see that he certainly will go back, but the days just go by. Jadis eventually is just fully strung along with the CRM, and Rick just has no choice. And although Jadis is right now essentially the villain of World Beyond, in episode 7 she certainly came across as some kind of inquisitor. Realistically, again, naming herself Stokes, I think there's still some good about her, but what do you think? What do you think of episode 7? What do you think happened with Jadis and Rick as soon as they got to the CRM? How long was he in a coma for? If he was, let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, then make sure you press the like button. It actually genuinely helps me out and will get this video seen by more people. And of course, if you did, then check out my other videos. Check out this one from my review on episode 6 of World Beyond. I talk more about Jadis and her mindset when she got to the CRM, and more on why she chose Gabriel's second name. And check out the video I did on the Rick Grimes Fortnite skin.